What's going on, guys? It's Wednesday boxing news. We have some unbelievable doozies, like actually really good news going on this week. It's not just a little bit like, oh, this guy said this, that guy said that, yo, tall kid, what's going on? We have some legit news this week, and I'm pumped for it. I mean, some awesome news in various weight classes. Guys, I don't know if Canelo triggered some of this or what it was, but for whatever reason, people decided to publish a lot of news this week. Dana, what's going on? Devin, what's going on, man? So I thought we'd start with a classic YouTube. And we would start with one of the best meme accounts on YouTube, who does some of the funniest videos on YouTube for combat sports. And just watch this really quick to warm up before we get into it, because this is just gold. This is gold. I have to applaud them, as you guys know. I mean, this is obviously not my content, so make sure to follow them. I love promoting their stuff, but
a lot of you live believable lives and keep not believing in me. So mark my words, you will hear the words and the new undisputed super middleweight and still undefeated.
Man, you fight with nobody. Hey, you are a champion, but you are a horrible fighter. Horrible fighter.
Caleb did have the shoulder roll down pretty well.
Yes, move! Head movement! Head movement! Head movement! That's funny? You think that's funny?
A little bit.
And you a drug cheat. And you a drug cheat. So tell me something. Tell me something.
You wanna see something special on you.
Ooh, Dana, we'll have to talk about that.
Oh, look at this guy. I'm gonna knock out this guy. Yeah. Who?
Pound for pound in both sports, why not?
Get the out of here, man. Please get the out of here, man. It's my night.
100% my fault. I take full responsibility for
Oh,
it.
this is so good.
Dana, shut up.
Big drama show.
Payday. You want
Payday. Okay. So, okay. I thought we'd start with that, guys. Let me do a quick. This guy's channel, fantastic channel. Just search him on YouTube if you want to watch some of that kind of stuff. Great freaking channel. All right. Oh, Jay, what's going on? Okay, let's get into some news. And as always, we start with the lightest weight class and go to the heaviest weight class. We are talking about Canelo. Talking about rumors of what happened with Caleb Plant. Possible broken orbital. That's the rumor. Talking about a possible new boxing video game, a new fight night. So, I was the first undisputed ever. Possible new EA video game. We're going to talk about that a bunch. So we have some good news for this week. This is, like I said, jam-packed with news. First, Ryan Garcia reacted to the comments of Canelo. Now, Canelo said he didn't feel like Ryan was very invested, focused on boxing. And he was honest. It's Canelo. He's not going to BS you. He's just being straight. Ryan said something along the lines, I'm just going to give you guys kind of like the cliff notes of this kind of garbage. He understands it all comes from love. In general, he feels like, mentally he is focused now to go into next year. And now with the hand surgery being successful, he wants to get back on track. And he wants to fight in spring. That's all good news if you're a Ryan Garcia fan. Personally, I think there's a lot. Carl, what's going on, man? I feel like there's a lot of distractions in his life. And he said, quote unquote, I am coming for everybody's heads in the lightweight division. Now, as everyone knows here, you can say whatever you want and what actually happens and what fights get made. That's a different thing. And my example would be, by the way, Canelo had 4 fights in 1 year when he's not with Oscar De La Hoya. Promoters do hold fighters back oftentimes when they're money-making type of machines. I feel like that's pretty well known. Young fighters or that have, very early on careers will fight 4 or 5 times in a year. And now, what do you think Oscar's thinking right now? Here's his cash cow. Him as well as one other individual who we will talk about. By the way, there's someone that is a big money maker possibly for Oscar that there is rumors of him leaving Oscar. This is bad for Golden Boy. We're going to get into it. And I'll talk about it when we get there. But there's a major fighter. I'm talking massive possible prospect and fighter that's talking about leaving Oscar. And this is huge news this week. So, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury press conference yesterday was the funniest shit I've ever seen. I will say it's funny that Tyson Fury is sending videos and texts to Jake Paul. I think that's hilarious. So, when your big brother does the trash talking for you. Hockey Stadium. Oh, God. Tyson was yelling at Jake the entire press conference. Of course he was. Because he knows what's up. He knows what's up. So let's keep it at the lightweight division, okay? This is a big one. I don't think it will happen. I hope it would. I'm sure most of you guys would hope it would, but it's probably not going to happen. Teofimo Lopez could face Tank Davis after Kambosos. Now, do I think that's likely? No. And I'll tell you why. If I'm Lopez and I'm going to fight Tank, I'm not going to fight him at 135. I'm going to fight him at 140. It's made the smart decision to trash talk PBC fighters or Mayweather fighters. T.O. at 135 is a guy that, with his physical stature and size, has to really work to get to 135, which, by the way, I don't blame him for. He's young, but Jesus, man, the guy's really understanding that he's got to make that weight. So if I was gonna fight Tank, who's 5'5", and I'm Lopez, I'm going up in weight to fight him. I'm not going down, and I'm not staying at 135. I'm going to 140, where I'm going to be more comfortable and be able to put more weight on from weigh-in to actual fight. So this is a great idea. I think everyone would love to see this. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I think it's nice. It's a nice idea. It's not going to happen though. I think that Lopez needs to repair his image, and this is why. I'll tell you why. And some people will be like, oh, he's doing great. He is doing the right things, but he's doing them at the wrong time. He went from Lomachenko, where he asked for a lot of money, which was the right time to do things and the right thing, because it's a big deal. And then he went from that to asking for a lot of money and chasing the money for the Kambosos fight, which is not a big money fight. It's a mandatory fight. And he screwed himself. Completely screwed himself on that. I don't believe anything Tio Lopez or Bud Crawford say, and I do until see them in the ring. Absolutely. How much bull and the fights have to fall through? Yeah, I mean, with these guys. OJ, we're going to get into Crawford. Crawford made a statement, and I'm like, oh, God, I rolled my eyes. But I have to agree with you, because Lopez, I think, let's just be honest. Lopez is a good fighter. He's a really good fighter, and he's young, and even though his dad's a little crazy, fight, exactly. Although his dad's a little bit nuts, Tio is a fairly solid guy. Dude, good, man. Glad to have you back, man. So I think Tio overall can find some good fights. The question is he going to take the Loma? I've heard that after this fight, he's going to take Loma. I doubt it. I think he's done at this weight class. I'll just be honest. I don't see Tio staying at lightweight for very long. It's just not good for him with his size. Oh, dude, no, it's all good to say, dude. That's the point of live. This is a boxing news conversation more than anything. I do have one bit of news that I think all of you guys, this might be the best news, one of the best news moments of tonight. You ready? And it's in the same weight class. When I saw this bit of news, I got so excited. I couldn't contain myself. There's talks of Loma versus Shakur Stevenson. Now, if it's at 130 or 135, doesn't really matter to me. I think Shakur Stevenson could move up to lightweight, no problem. I think Loma could go back down to 130, no problem. This right here, to me, is not just a sleeper fight or anything. This is a super fight. Nah, okay, maybe not super. It's a massive fight. Usually super fights are saved for like Usyk versus Fury kind of level. Oh my God. This right here is a career defining fight for both guys. Jamel Herring, I like a lot. Got made to look silly against Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson came out and he knew exactly what the assignment was. Let's just put it that way. He knew the assignment, and Shakur Stevenson executed the assignment to a T against Jamel Herring. I was partially not shocked, but like impressed, partially just like dumbfounded in the way he just looked so much faster. His hand speed is phenomenal. It's legit. There's no saying that Shakur Stevenson, he's not a prospect anymore. He's a contender. I know he's won a belt before, yada, yada. I'm talking about like legit. Shakur Stevenson's a problem. He's a fucking problem. I mean, really, I know. Struck off his, I know, Dana, we're going to talk about that. His dad said a couple things that I don't know if his son can cash them. Shakur doesn't have a next fight lined up. He doesn't. So this right here makes sense, Shrek. I agree. Tio and Crawford are very good. That's why it sucks seeing them fight. Yeah, wasting their time in their primes. Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. And what we're going to get into that a little bit more with Crawford, but in my opinion, Crawford, the Porter fight's a big deal. it's a big deal for him. But this right here, like, let me just say this about Loma. You guys know I'm a Loma fanboy. I like Loma a lot. I geek out over Loma. The Nakatani fight was a statement. It was a statement like, if you thought I was gone, here I am. The Comey fight is the same thing. It's a shot over the bow of all these young fighters. If he goes out there and dominates, and I mean, if he does the same thing he did with Nakatani, where he didn't waste rounds, he didn't download, he just went in there and just kicked the crap out of Comey, who's a very legit fighter who gave Robert Easter a lot of problems. Guess what? That's a shot over the bow for all these young fighters. Like, come and get me. Let's go. You want to show you're great? Let's see how great you are. And to me, maybe this is a little bit exaggerating. Maybe you guys can call me out on this or not. Lomachenko, in very few, under 20 fights, has fought more quality opponents than some boxers have had in 30 plus fights. It's unreal. If you look at his resume and the pathway he's taken, it's unreal. Ganja Warrior, what's going on, man? It's unreal, the pathway and resume that Loma has in under 20 fights. If he fights Shakur Stevenson, dude. Exactly, Minnie. If Loma fights Shakur Stevenson after this Comey fight, my God. And if he does well and wins, holy smokes. Because Shakur Stevenson's around to stay. He's not going anywhere. Even if he loses once, he's not going anywhere. He's a real, like, legit talent. You know. T.O. Tank, I know, we talked about that. And it's like, if I'm going to fight Tank, I'm not going to fight him at 135. I'm going to fight him at 140. Because then, you know, T.O. can get even bigger. You know. Exactly, Shrek. Exactly. Hell, Josh Taylor talking about whooping T.O. Dude, I know. He's got to be careful. T.O.'s got to be careful. Tank versus Isaac Cruz is such a good fight. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So this, to me, this was the one thing I saw a piece of news. We have multiple pieces. This one, I was like, holy cow, we're not even through lightweight. And there's big pieces. Like I said, I go from the lightest weight class to the heaviest weight class in terms of news. This was a massive, massive piece of news, which gets me excited. Like, when something like that gets me that excited, I'm just like, oh boy, it's going to be a good news week. It's going to be a good news week. So we talked about Tank and Lopez and how that's probably not going to work out. My favorite part, though, is if you're going to talk about T.O., you got to talk about his dad. You know. I just feel like at a certain point, I just feel like T.O.'s got to distance himself a little bit from his dad. Because look at what T.O.'s holding. He's holding 2 WBC belts. He earned maybe a franchise belt from Loma, but he didn't earn the actual WBC belt. Like, this whole thing, this is the biggest problem with T.O. and everything around him is his dad is an absolute detriment to his career. And he's writing checks that his son can't cash. And it's just like, why, man? Like, why trash talk or say something about Canelo when Canelo legit sweeped that entire weight class in 11 months? Oh, Dana, we're going to talk about that come heavyweight. And it's just like, I just don't get it. And I think that T.O., and mind you, imagine, and this is why I want to say this, and this is why it's important. T.O. right now, right, under the management and everything that's going around him, imagine, just put your mind away whether you like T.O. or not. Just think about the fact if Tio had the chance to train with Eddie Reynoso. Imagine if Tio had the chance to train with Eddie Reynoso. They said, Ryan Garcia, see you later. Or Ryan Garcia, you stay at 135. Tio's going up to 140. He's going to challenge Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis and guys at that weight class. Hello? Could you imagine what that would do for him? Could you imagine the quality that we would expect from him? And here we have his dad getting in the way. That's the biggest detriment to him. Because Eddie Reynoso is not going to take on clients and people that are going to cause problems in his gym. And Lopez Sr., although he's entertaining, is a problem. He's a problem. And he distracts his son. So that's my thoughts on that. I just don't understand it. Exactly, G-Fig. Exactly. I wonder if Canelo and Tio talk, if Tio trying to, I said that, I mean, come on. So that's my general. Now, of course, we have to talk while we're talking Canelo and everything. My favorite thing to talk about is people that get on and talk smack. And that is Rolly. Rolly is expecting to fight Tank in the spring, by the way. Now, if you don't know, Rolly has sexual assault allegations. And I say allegations. Everything is alleged. I think it's by 6 women. So Rolly kind of possibly screwed himself for a big payday. So now we have Cruz stepping in. Now Cruz is no pushover. No pushover. It's going to be interesting. And I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I think it's more or less a keeping busy fight, but yes, Shrek. He is a live dog in there. Rolly, people talked about his power. I don't understand. Anyone that talked about Rolly and power, I just in the same sentence as a power puncher, I feel like is an idiot, or I just don't understand them. I don't understand them because Rolly doesn't hit that hard. Like, I've never seen Rolly hit someone and be like, what, damn! Like, that's a lot of power. Like, just never seen that. So, yeah, I don't get that, but, Okay. Clash of Styles, of course. Styles makes fights, of course. Let's move up. Let's see. Who do we want next? Okay. Let's go up to welterweight. And this is where I'm kind of like, Jay, I believe you brought this up about Crawford. All I have to say to Terrence Crawford is, duh. Of course he's getting the fights he wants. He's his own promoter. Canelo gets to fight whoever he wants because he's his own promoter. He left Golden Boy and DAZN and left a lot of stuff going on because he wasn't happy and wasn't getting paid properly. Crawford has stayed with Top Rank and completely bitched about Top Rank the entire time. Literally his entire time he's been with Top Rank, he's complained. I just don't get it. Dana, exactly. I agree with you on that about Rolly. He's still with Top Rank. I don't get it. And it's just like, listen, bud, because you know why? You know how I know he's with Top Rank? Look behind him. There's the Top Rank logo. That is him versus that's literally him versus Sean Porter. Crawford versus Porter. Top Rank is putting that on. I mean, exactly, Shrek. It's to a point where I'm just like, dude, this is a toxic relationship. Like, toxic relationship. And I just don't get it. Because Bob talks poorly about him and he talks poorly about Top Rank. I mean, sorry. Just responding to Discord. Just for the jacket. By the way, Ganja Warrior, in our Discord, we have him as a meme. You can post just a Rolly with the jacket meme as a Rolly pimpin' ain't easy kind of meme. So this to me, I just don't get Crawford anymore. And I like Crawford. I will say him and Porter is a big difference, man. It's like a big difference from what he's fought. Kavaliauskas is a great fighter, a very good fighter. I mean, not great, but good fighter. He doesn't sell tickets. Every time someone turns into PBC, they see Sean Porter. And Porter is a very likable guy. He has a decent following. He's promoting the fight well. For once, this is the time Bud Crawford is actually working with someone that actually can help sell the fight. Dude, Nico Ali carries Top Rank. Minnie, can I tell you how annoyed I was that True Jordy did a whole interview with like Nico Ali? Like it was a big deal. And I'm just like, dude, this is a joke. I like True Jordy. I like hearing a, British take on boxing, but it's just like, dude, give me a fucking break. Give me a break. Now let's talk about a real interesting story. It deals with Crawford, but it deals with someone that I think, depending on how he looks, could possibly be Crawford. And that is Mr. Virgil Ortiz. You guys know how I feel about him. Virgil says he's ready for Terrence Crawford. Now, I want to bring up one thing that people would say that against Virgil Ortiz. He's young. He hasn't been fully tested at that level. I have not seen that stupid incident by Mikey Garcia yet quite. But with Virgil, what's interesting is this. There's one big piece that's been missing from Virgil Ortiz. In my opinion. He gets hit a little bit too much. And I think he's very close. He's a contender for that very top level. I think Boots Ennis is a little higher. But Virgil is like extremely close. But this is where Virgil Ortiz could get that next level over Boots. There's rumors going around. Nothing has been confirmed. That Virgil Ortiz is leaving Robert Garcia. And he's going to Eddie Reynoso as a trainer. This was talked about by Mike Coppinger. This was a, like, he did it kind of thing. But then Dan Rayfield said that, no, it's a conversation. And actually, Virgil retweeted him and said, thank you. We are exploring options currently. So I'm just trying to give you guys straight facts. Not hearsay. If it's a rumor or if it's like kind of like talked about, I'll let you guys know that. I don't tell you guys stuff that's happening that's not happening. I try to make sure I preface things properly, because it's not fair to say like this is what's happening and then it doesn't happen. It's a possibility. And if he does switch to Eddie Reynoso, and I really like him. Tim is a quality prospect as well. Especially his dad was a very solid fighter. If he ends up going against Ugas, let's say, because there's rumors of him fighting Ugas, right? If you're Virgil Ortiz and you're taking that step up, you're literally going to fight someone that just beat Manny Pacquiao, and you want that clout and you want that belt and you want to be a champion. Nothing against Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia is a very solid trainer, very good trainer, has had a lot of champions and still has a lot of champions in that gym. So I don't want to disrespect Robert Garcia, but Eddie Reynoso is the hot new trainer that everyone wants to be under. There's a reason that Andy Ruiz went there, and there's a reason that obviously Ryan Garcia, and like there's a reason that people are there, and that's because of what they've seen with Canelo in terms of just being able to create a legacy. If Virgil Ortiz goes to Eddie Reynoso, that's pretty special. That's going to be a very interesting topic to talk about in terms of what he can be. Because it's one thing to say that about a guy like Ryan Garcia, who we saw do pretty well and get knocked down, but get up and get the stoppage against Luke Campbell. We can talk about that. But Virgil, on the other hand, has now fought a few real serious former champions and title contenders and like legit fighters. Virgil is on that cusp, and he's screaming to fight some of these big names like Terrence Crawford. I think the reason that he calls out Terrence Crawford, I think the reason that Boots calls out Terrence Crawford hasn't been active. And if he looks like garbage against Porter, guess what? Everyone wants his head. Didn't corner his last fight. That's Dana. That's a good point. I mean, fight the loser of Crawford versus Porter. I mean, what was funny is after Virgil beat Hooker, everyone said, "Oh, Cal Velasquez, that's the guy. Like that's the guy he's got to beat to be able to like fight Crawford next." And then he beat him, and it's just like Virgil's getting very close. Like he's at the age he's just like, how many obstacles do you put in his way? I don't know. I'm not that guy, but if he gets the change of trainer, watch the hell out, because that's going to be scary. We're talking about real possible champions here. I try to bring those people to the forefront a little bit more when we talk about kind of general news, and not guys like so-called prospects. I don't care about prospects as much as like real contenders. So, you know, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting if you ask me. Okay, let's move up to 160 middleweight. And we got to talk about my favorite person. My favorite fighter of all time, who I just love talking about every single week. Of course, that's Boo Boo. So, Boo Boo's fighting Jason Quigley, which no one cares about, next weekend. And this article on Boxing 24/7 is done by Jimmy James. And he has a complete hard on for Boo Boo. And he makes a bunch of articles recently. You see, this is on the 9th, talking about how much he absolutely thinks that Boo Boo is going to be a problem for Canelo. And I did. I see how they react to Canelo, because we're going to talk about that. With Bud or Spence, and his career turns out like, Vargas, yeah. Too much too fast and ruin him. Dana, that's a good point. We're going to talk on Andrade and Canelo right now. We're talking about a couple articles that were written. This is another good one. Guys, you guys are going to love this. Same guy, a day before the last article I just showed you, just wrote this. Fight of the century material. Absolutely. Boo Boo apparently will easily beat Canelo, according to Jimmy James. Unboxing 24/7. Payday? Yeah, we're going to get there, because we have that saying coming up real soon. And this is the biggest problem. And this is my general take with Boo Boo, because you guys know I don't love Boo Boo. And this is how I want to lay it out, because I want to be fair. I want to be as fair as possible. Does Demetrius Andrade have skills and show them when he fights? Yes, he does. He really does. By the way, my favorite punch by Boo Boo is his lead uppercut. It's pretty awesome. It's actually he has a really awkward style. And his lead uppercut, it comes from nowhere. It comes from his hip, which you don't see in your periphery, especially if you have a high guard. It's a really beautiful punch. And he throws it like in a multitude, which I love. I absolutely love it. The problem with Boo Boo, and this is where I have a problem with him. Maybe you guys disagree with this. So if I'm saying something you guys don't agree, let me know in the chat. I'm not going to jump all over you. I find that Boo Boo will have 5 really good rounds where he's just like Liam Williams. He's just like dominating. Like, I'm a way better fighter than you. It's like, yeah, you are. Especially that lead uppercut's just like smacking Liam Williams in the face. And I'm just like, yes, man. Keep doing it. Love it. And then the 6th round comes around. And he takes the round off. And the 7th round comes around. And he takes the round off. And then the 8th round comes around. And he does kind of pretty good. And shows some of those skills again. Not like full force, kind of. And the 8th round comes around. He takes that round off. And then 9th round comes around. And it's like that kind of half again. Kind of like half, I'm half really going hard. Kind of not. And 10th round will come around, and he might take that round off. And the last 2 rounds, he works really hard. And I'm just like, I see some really good talent here, but I don't see consistency. It's just, you can't have inconsistency. And the best example I have, and I'm not trying to dogpile on him, but you guys know that I think it's pretty obvious right now, is AJ. AJ will have a handful of really good early rounds because AJ's a solid boxer. And then he'll take rounds off against guys like Pulev. It's why are you taking the round off? Just go in there and keep doing what you're doing. And when you look at guys Canelo's a good example where he's just constantly hunting, constantly starving to hit you. It's a different kind of atmosphere, a different kind of pace and everything like that. He's not throwing a million punches. He's just, I'm in your face. I'm going to hurt you. I did not hear about Pulev versus Frank Mir. God, I hope that doesn't happen. Frank Mir will die. Another example, Tyson Fury in his last fight against Deontay Wilder. Like, he had to be like all out. I'm in. I'm just going. And because if he took a round off, Deontay Wilder was going to hurt him, especially early on. We saw with one of my favorite fighters, Lomachenko. Lomachenko took too many rounds off against Lopez. Against Salido, took too many rounds off. You can't do that. It's not acceptable. It's not okay to do that if you're going to be a top level elite fighter. These guys are going to show you. I mean, I see, yeah, he'd fight him at 150. I doubt Mayweather would, but Mayweather's a good example. Mayweather from round 1 till round 12 is going to keep being nonstop consistent. The best guys I see in terms of boxing, the way I judge kind of elite level fighters or top level fighters is I look at guys that are really consistent through all 12 rounds. A really good example is Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor on round 1 to round 12 is gonna be absolutely trying to take your head off. There's not a round that Josh Taylor isn't trying to knock you out. He's so consistent. And yeah, he has bad rounds. But the next round, guess what? I'm coming again. And my eye might be completely shut. I'm coming for you. And that's what makes a guy like Josh Taylor the way he is. A guy like Triple G, just nonstop in your face. Earl Spence has that to him as well as to a degree. Sean Porter, when he's really like on top level, he can be like that. Tio, I feel like against Loma, we saw that. To your point, I feel like against Loma, that was the one time like I felt like, oh, Comey, he was pretty on top of it too. But like, that's where I saw him go like 12 rounds where like he had to work 12 rounds. And in my opinion, against Loma, that was a fairly close fight. I did give it, even as a Loma fan, I gave it to Tio. He definitely won that fight. But if he has a rematch and Loma's 100% healthy and everything else, it's going to be a really tough one. He's got to work the entire time. That's why like Tio talking about like fighting Josh Taylor or even Regis Prograis, those guys are 12 round nonstop fighters. And that's what makes me excited. You know, I love Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's a great fighter. His doctor report saying he was sick the week of the Spence fight. Oh God. Mikey Garcia is not one of those guys that's a consistent 12 round fighter. But this is why when people say this kind of stuff, I hate it. And this is why I want to preface this, because you guys will hear me say on this channel a lot of times, like, I don't like Boo Boo. And I'll say a lot of times, like, I don't like Boo Boo fans sometimes because they overinflate and say like Canelo's ducking him. And it's like, well, Boo Boo doesn't really have a huge market behind him. And on top of that, he has one belt. It's not like he has like 3 belts and he's a big problem for everyone at 160. He has an extremely weak resume, and he lets guys like Liam Williams to take multiple rounds away from him. Payday, you know. So that's my little rant on that. Let's keep it at the same realm. Let's keep it at the same realm. Let's go move up to 168 though. You know, as you can tell, I love this stuff. This is the stuff that gets me excited though. It's like reading this news, talking about this stuff with you guys, because I get actual feedback with you guys, and it's really nice that I'm not just sitting here in my own little bubble feeling like this. So this is what's interesting. This is what happens every time Canelo wins right now. As we know, Canelo KO'd Plant in the 11th round. Now, by the way, if you were there for that stream, I loved having you there. It was super fun. I agree he might show some stuff. And look, I'm not saying he wouldn't show some stuff against Canelo. But the problem I will say is, I've now heard that about Billy Joe Saunders. I've heard that about Caleb Plant. I've heard that about Callum Smith. Now, granted, as the boxing rant pointed out, and I think this is just for humor, so don't take it too personal, guys, is how many fighters like Canelo get to fight these three fighters with these first names of Caleb, Callum, and Billy Joe Saunders as their opponents, which I thought was really funny. It's like you get to fight like three white boys with those names, and of course you're gonna win. But I think that Boo Boo, people talking to him giving issues to Canelo. I think he could, but can he be consistent for 12 rounds? It's always the question. So let's talk Canelo now. He wins. He becomes undisputed at 168. I think this is a good thing. I had an argument and had to ban someone in my chat because I had to point out the fact that I think this is a big deal. I think this is a great accomplishment. He did it in 11 months, which tells me, yes, the opposition, Yildirim is a no problem. He knew that was a mandatory, could get it out of the way kind of situation. But Billy Joe fighting Callum Smith and fighting Caleb Plant, he knew was not a big problem. I know. That guy was super chill at the beginning of the stream. And then he turned into a real jerk. And then he got banned. But the point is, to me, that's a big deal. That tells me that Canelo, to do that kind of like run, tells me that, look, you had to lay stuff out. Like you had to lay that out and know what you were going to do. And he saw that there was a weakness at 168. And he went for it. And he did it in 11 months. It's not like if he had done this over like 2-3 years, you can be more critical. He did it in 11 months. Okay? He did it in 11 months. So, Dana, I say that all the time. If you don't have power, you will not keep Canelo off of you. And I like that seek and destroy style by Canelo a lot. So, Benavidez or Charlo. That's what gets talked about really quick. And I'm like, okay. I think we all agree Benavidez has been on the radar that everyone wants to see. And then I also see this, and this is what happens every time. Oh, his next opponent, this is the day before, they now say it's going to be Golovkin or Charlo or Beterbiev. And it's just like everyone wants to throw their hat into the ring because they all want to make money. I get that. But I saw this and I want your guys' take on this because this is a hot take from Grandpa Teddy Atlas. It's not a bad hot take. I just don't agree with it. And I generally kind of agree with Teddy Atlas. I don't agree with him on this. This article pointed out that Teddy Atlas on his YouTube channel said was, I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to see him fight Callum Smith. I don't want to see him fight Caleb Plant or Billy Joe Saunders. I want to see him fight David Benavidez. I want to see him fight, Beterbiev. I want to see him fight Smith, Joe Smith Jr. I want to see him fight. Like, he listed a few guys that he wants to see him fight. You telling me Saunders was a journeyman? Saunders is an inconsistent fighter. I think he's a good fighter. He's an inconsistent fighter. He's always been an inconsistent fighter. There's no argument there. That was a really good version of Billy Joe, though. That was pretty darn close to what we saw against David Lemieux. I think that Billy Joe at 160, when he was really, really good at 160, could have given more problems to Canelo at 160, but then he ballooned up in weight and got really inconsistent, and then he moved to 168, and I think that's where his problems lied, in my opinion. I think if he stayed to 160 and really was like dedicated, he would have been a real issue. But anyhow, and so Teddy is kind of critical of Canelo. And look, I like Canelo. I enjoy Canelo. I like what he's done. I appreciate what he's done, and I think a lot of you guys do too, which is he's just fighting champions and, generally speaking, guys that if he knows he can get him out, he gets him out. He doesn't play with his food. I think the Yildirim fight is a good example. Rocky Fielding, good example. Doesn't play with his food. He gets him out of there. And I think we kind of appreciate that as fight fans. Yeah, Zardo. I mean, exactly. And so, my general take, that right there is Grandfather Atlas putting a curse on me for talking poorly about him. That's what happens when you talk about Grandfather Atlas in a poor manner. The spirits come for you. So, all right. So, anyways, let's move on from Canelo. Holy cow. I think he can too. And look, out of the guys that Canelo beat, like Callum Smith's never going to be a champion again. At light heavyweight, he's never gonna be a champion again. He's not. Billy Joe Saunders is never going to be a champion again. He's not. He's not going to be a champion again. It's just not going to happen. Caleb Plant has a possibility if Canelo vacates the belts. It's possible. So, if he moves to 160, he'd be a nightmare to deal with. Now, let's move up the cruiserweight and stay on that same Canelo train, by the way. I love the people that call out Canelo when he wins. I love the people that call out Canelo when he wins. Because it's like, payday. You want payday? I mean, this is a classic case. I know, Dana, we're going to watch that fight. Because I honestly believe the biggest kind of like interesting fight is Beterbiev. Bivol doesn't quite do it for me as much. Of course, cruiserweight. Of course, a cruiserweight calls out Canelo. And I'm just like, dude, you're in one of the most irrelevant weight classes. And I don't hate on cruiser. I just think that it's one of those most like forgotten weight classes. Like people just don't pay attention to it that much. You know? And it's just like it's one of those like weight classes that it just kind of like it's there, it's a flash in the pan when there's someone there that's interesting. But there's a reason they all move up to heavy. And I'm always like interested to see who calls out Canelo whenever he wins. This is a classic case. Classic case. Of course, you're 6'1" and you're a cruiserweight. You want to call out Canelo. Like, we get it. Payday. You know, like, let's move up to heavyweight now. I mean, fight Ruiz. Fight someone. Gassiev. Like, go fight. I mean, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Like I always pronounce it, like the sunglasses and people in the UK always give me shit. Oakley. You know, there's other people to fight. Now, I saw a little bit of this and a little bit of the like conversation here. And look, I don't change my position after what happened in the first fight. I am still a firm believer that Parker won. He won by a slim margin, but he won against Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora basically gassed out, and apparently I find a lot of like UK fans that just like forget that jabs count as like points. And they're like, well, the body work that Chisora did, he landed not that much body work. And like the commentary team for this fight was atrocious from the UK side. It was literally making Derek Chisora seem like he's easily winning every round. And he wasn't. He did really good early on. He knocked him down. And then he gassed out. And Parker just outboxed him and just hit him with jabs. I'm not saying it was like the best win in the world from Parker, but he did beat Derek Chisora in my opinion. Slimly, but he did. So you're one of two people. Either you think that Derek Chisora won and he won like very easily, or you think that like Parker just barely won. And there's like no in between. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in boxing in terms of like the fan base of boxing. It's like one or the other. Either you really think that Derek Chisora just like easily won that, or like you're someone that's like maybe watched it like I did without sound on because I'm doing commentary on it. And it's just like, wow, Derek Chisora is not doing anything right now. He's throwing wild punches, and Parker's landing multitudes of jabs that are very clean on Derek Chisora's face right now. I know UK boxing fans, they are the ones I get in the most arguments with on every platform, whether it be Twitter or Instagram. I'm not a very controversial, I don't do many hot takes on social media, but they are the ones that always seem to like try to fight me. It's just like for whatever reason, they always just want to fight me on whatever I say. It doesn't matter what I say. Oi, mate, AJ. My God, I can't even do it right now. But yes, and I'm not saying that like UK fight fans are bad people. I'm just saying they're very opinionated. They oftentimes get spoon-fed a lot from about certain fighters. You got ESPN Plus. It's worth it. ESPN Plus is absolutely worth it if you're a UFC fan. 100% worth it. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about some general rumors now. These are not factual. These have not been proven. These are rumors. Okay? And this one comes from a source that I would say I trust the least. And that is John Fury. He said that Tyson Fury went into the Wilder fight with both his elbows injured, and they had to inject basically his elbows so that they wouldn't hurt during the fight. That is what John Fury is saying. There's no evidence of this. There's no proof of this. The same way that I hear people saying that Canelo broke Plant's orbital bone. There's no medical proof of that. There's no evidence of that. And so I always hesitate to like say it's like fact or it's like news. It's like it's hearsay. It's hearsay. Sean Fury is never a reliable source, although I think he has great takes sometimes. That's why White pulled out. Yeah. And he had a thing to say about White, which is if you want to get the fight with Tyson Fury, blow smoke up his backside. You know. I don't know what that technically means in terms of how to get a fight, but whatever. This one, I think, is not hearsay. This is not a rumor. This is pretty legit. And I've heard now twice that AJ, from multiple sources, that AJ is coming back to the US. I don't know where everyone went. That's the problem with streams crashing. AJ's coming back to the US to talk to Shields. He's talking to now multiple other people. And he is still searching for that next trainer that he wants to move to. Eddie Hearn has said that he wants him to change environments. AJ has kind of seemed a little bit different during interviews. And this isn't like kind of like me just saying that. I'm talking about like people that are like big AJ fanboys are saying like AJ seems different. I think this loss is a big deal in a lot of ways. Back to with his old trainer. Exactly. Yeah. If you're an Usyk fan, just like go back to McCracken. This is a big deal. This is gonna really, I know AJ cusses now. AJ's getting that little bit of mean streak. Got a picture with Plant in the casino after the fight on Sunday. Plant's eye was open and not really damaged. See, Dana, that's why I say it's hearsay when I hear people saying, multiple people and YouTube videos being made that Caleb Plant's eye, he had an orbital bone broken. I didn't see that with my eyes. I didn't see any medical reports about that. I try to be careful about when I say that stuff. It's hearsay. It's rumor that people say that. And that's why I try to give you guys solid news and not like Jimmy James news where they think that like Andrade's going to destroy Canelo now suddenly out of nowhere. So we know that AJ's been looking. He talked to Robert Garcia. He's talked to just a plethora of various trainers. And I think that's good. He's talked to Hunter. He's talked to a bunch of people. And I think that's good for AJ. But the problem I have to say is that Shields, although he trained like Mike Tyson and other heavyweight fighters, he's not going to be able to make a different fighter out of AJ. AJ is what he is. And the worst part about this, if you're an AJ fan, if you really like AJ, is that he now basically showed his skill set to a degree. Maybe not every single bit, but a good chunk of his skill set to Usyk. Alexander is too good. Yes, absolutely. AJ got clocked. Yeah, he did. He got schooled. It wasn't even a close fight. It wasn't a close fight. It was an absolute schooling. It was a boxing lesson. And I did a whole video on my YouTube channel. If you want my opinion, if AJ can win against Usyk, he can technically, because he's still a big guy that hits really hard. He's still a hard-hitting guy. Would I put my money on it? And this is how I approach, I know a lot of people use clickbait on YouTube. This is my opinion, Dana. This is what I do on my YouTube videos. I say this, look, is it possible for AJ to win? Yes. This is how I would train AJ if I was his trainer to fight Usyk. I would have him do body work, because if you're going to deal with a guy that can move that well and have that much head movement, you need to absolutely limit that as much as possible. Body work that happened with Usyk, and I show actual video during the fight where you can see Usyk not liking the body work from AJ. Like, I'm not BSing. I'm showing actual evidence from the fight where Usyk was not comfortable with the body work that AJ did. But AJ abandoned it almost immediately. And then I say after that, like, this is how I would approach it. Would I put money on it? Because the way I always go about my videos in terms of like giving you predictions, in terms of like, would I put my money on it? I would not put money on AJ beating Usyk. Vaughn, what's going on, brother? Could Usyk beat Wilder and Fury? Oh God. So you just want me to get ratioed, huh? That's what you want, Shrek. You know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. I think AJ looking for a different trainer is the best thing he can do. I think Alexander, okay, Usyk can beat Wilder. I think he can beat Wilder. It's a dangerous fight. Let's not underestimate the fact that, like, people underestimate Wilder a lot. They think he's really simple. He's dangerous. He's really dangerous. I'm good, Vaughn. How are you doing, brother? And Fury's vulnerable. We've seen it in the Wallin fight. Any one of these heavyweight guys, they're vulnerable against a guy like Usyk. It's not like Tyson Fury is an exactly like perfect midsection fit. He has a vulnerable part of his body that moves a lot slower than the rest of him. So yeah, he's vulnerable. So I think that's interesting in terms of AJ looking for a new trainer. I think it's very interesting that people for a long time were like, he's fine, he should be here, he doesn't need to have fights in the US. I can't tell you how many times I got in fights with like UK like AJ boxing fans. I'm just like, it'd be a really smart plan to like diversify. Like, Usyk fights every one of his like big fights in everyone else's country, and that's how Usyk has spread his name across the globe, because he's not just a Ukrainian fighter. He's fought every major fight in like all over. And I'm like, AJ should do that too, because like he's a massive star in the UK, and he's a massive star in Africa. Like, he could really spread his name really well in the US, considering his two biggest brands that sponsor him, Under Armour and Beats, are here in the US. And people are like, no, he doesn't need to do that. He sells out stadiums here. And I'm like, well, like he also has people signed to him. It would probably be smart to do that. And they're like, no. And I'm just, I don't get you people. I'm like, Usyk and Loma both realize that like the US, the UK, like there's more places to fight other than your home country. And they've done that for a reason. Like, they're really smart businessmen. And the people around them are really good about it too. Why do you think Lomachenko and Usyk have learned so much English? It's not because they want to. It's because they realize it's smart business. And it's a lot harder to learn. Like, English is a hard language to learn. It's a really hard language to learn. So like, they do that because they realize the market. Could possibly beat Wilder and Fury, but it's a tall task. I mean, anytime he's fighting one of those guys, it's always going to be a tall task. Absolutely, Vaughn. Triad Combat. They said it's where it's made because kids don't want to watch old sports like UFC. Main event is Mir versus Pulev. What? I have no idea. Triller's a dying thing. Virgil Horn. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Vaughn. Like, Vaughn, he needs something different. Okay. One last thing. Sorry that the stream broke up into two now, but this is the biggest thing. This is a huge thing, and we're going to probably talk about this for like 20 minutes. It's the biggest thing that could be happening. Don't worry. I'll be back on Friday. This is huge. EA Sports gave green light for new Fight Night boxing game. New UFC game takes priority, but there is a plan to revive Fight Night franchise. Guys, we're talking new boxing games now. We're talking new boxing games now. Now, I'll say this about it. Number one. Esports Boxing Club has the rights to Fury right now, to have him in that game. So there goes one big exclusive, right? Doesn't mean, by the way, that's smart of Fury if he gave them the rights but didn't give them exclusive. So that's a pretty good deal because Fury could be in both games now. He already has a relationship with EA. He's already done stuff with EA for UFC 4. I'm actually drinking wine. I had a little bit of wine. During the week, I don't drink hard liquor at all. So with EA and AJ, I'm pretty sure they have an exclusive because he does a lot of their soccer, like he does FIFA and he's done UFC. And he has not signed on for esports boxing. I could see them getting Mayweather. I never see Mayweather being in a boxing game again. I think he asked for too much money. Now, the question I have is this. And this is to you guys to answer. Do you think that they are doing this because EA sees that boxing is on an uptick in terms of popularity? The heavyweight division is doing really well right now. Tyson Fury obviously just had a big win against Wilder. Usyk just beat Josh AJ, who was their exclusive fighter that they had. And I'm assuming he has an exclusive deal. I don't know for a fact if he does. But now that AJ could possibly not be like their big fighter, the big cash cow, front cover fighter, they could put Fury on the front and they could have Alexander Usyk in there and AJ could be a part of it but not be the face of it. Is that the role they're going? Or number two, and Esports Boxing Club has now ruffled their feathers enough to say, hey, there's some interest here. People are talking about this game. Now, Esports Boxing Club has not put a date in when they're going to actually release their stuff. Like when that game releases, who knows? Who knows? But there's a lot of talk every time they launch a trailer video. Like I see the momentum growing. We see it in chat all the time. You guys see it all the time in chat. Like it keeps growing. Every time in chat I hear, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that with Esports Boxing Club? And it's like, it's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And whether it's coming out on, December 30th or whenever it's coming out, there's talks about it. Like there's a lot of conversation about it. I think, to your point, Trek, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit column A, little column B. I agree with you, Vaughn, that boxing's drawing a lot more of a crowd and attention again. It doesn't hurt that maybe they get Jake Paul involved. Maybe Jake Paul gets in the game. I don't know. Maybe Logan Paul's in the game. I bet you both of them would be cheap to get in the game compared to some people like Mayweather. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of joking, but I think in general, for EA to talk about this stuff, it's interesting. Now, this is my general thing with EA and video games. I myself am a Titanfall video game fan. I love Titanfall. I love that video game series. Massive fan of it. Titanfall 2 especially. The campaign was short but great. I can't tell you how much it hurts the Titanfall community. The fact that EA and Respawn, that is, commissioned through EA, will not give us a Titanfall 3 because Apex is making them so much money. And I have a feeling that we're going to see something similar when it comes to the UFC games compared to a new boxing game. EA is all about money. They know what makes them money, what doesn't. Here's the biggest difference between boxing and UFC. And it's just true. Dana White is the owner of the UFC. There's one belt for every weight division. Dana White owns the likeness of every single fighter in the UFC. So he can do promotion, he can make videos, he can use their photography of them, everything. And I'm sure he can also make a deal with EA like he has and just say, boom, make a game. You can use every single one of my fighters that you want in this game. It's easy. It's a plug and play situation for EA. It's easy. It's easy contracts. Boxing is not that way. Boxing is each person has to sign on and give their rights for their likeness. It's different ball game. And I don't see it being an easy task. Because if you're missing, let's say, PBC fighters, or you're missing even Golden Boy fighters, or top rank fighters, or even Queensberry fighters, some of them, people are going to notice. Probably Queensberry less. It's hard to not joke on Frank Warren, but you know what I'm saying. You need a complete roster, right? Esports Boxing Club has done a very good job with building legacy fighters as well as modern fighters. A really good job. They don't have everybody, but they have a good chunk of people. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out. I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out. Do I have my hopes very high? No. I don't even have high hopes for Esports Boxing Club because they haven't proven anything to me. Mind you, I am a Witcher 3 fan and I like CD Projekt Red, and what I was ecstatic for Cyberpunk. I was going to pre-order it and then I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. Just going to put that out there. It's not that I don't think that they can't deliver. You got to prove it to me first before you get $60 from me. And that's before there's, microtransactions and DLC and everything else. Any fights this weekend? Oh, yes. Just Booker, we're going to be watching one of two fights this weekend. One of two fights this weekend. We have Jaime Munguia versus Gabe Rosado. Good fight. Good fight. Because we have two different guys that will be... I think Gabe Rosado is a war-torn fighter. It's really tough to not root for him. But he's a very classic fighter. We also have David Benavidez fighting this weekend, which is also very interesting because now he kind of lines up with fighting Canelo. So it's like, we want to see what he can do because obviously David Benavidez could be a big opponent for Canelo. Max Holloway is fighting, as Shrek has pointed out. But I will say this. UFC is going to be very early in the day. Main card for UFC is going to start 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So they should be done before we even stream any boxing. So I think we're going to what I'll probably do for you guys is because that fight's going to be on ESPN Plus, I'll probably put it in Discord. So if you're not in Discord, join the Discord. If you don't know how to get to the Discord, I can tell you how to get there because we have a very easy way to get there, which is just, Discord. There's the link. Go watch it in Discord. We'll have it on Discord for the UFC fights. And then we'll probably go back and forth and watch the Jaime Munguia fight. And hopefully we can watch that and David Benavidez. Because I think the Gabe Rosado fight is a fun fight. And Jaime Munguia fight's a really fun fight. David Benavidez fight is going to be a one-sided fight. But we want to see where he's at. Because David Benavidez, I think, is the one person whose name gets thrown around more than probably anybody's to fight Canelo. Everyone wants to see it. The reason maybe you didn't know about it, Jay, is because Jaime Munguia was gonna fight. What's his face? He was gonna fight. I can see he has a curly Q mustache. Basically a no-name kind of person, and then he got the Gabe Rosado fight. So Spike, whatever his name is, he was gonna fight. I'm blanking on his last name. What do I suggest you watch on Saturday night? Watch both of them. Watch them in the Discord. If you had to pick one, the Jaime Munguia versus Gabe Rosado fight is probably less important. It's a prospect / possible contender versus kind of a gatekeeper. That's what that fight is. Mind you, Gabe Rosado gave a really, 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 really good fight against Danny Jacobs. Like, really good fight against Danny Jacobs, to the point where a lot of people feel like Gabe Rosado beat Danny Jacobs. I thought he beat Danny Jacobs. Why is Sean Porter sparring smaller fighters in training camp for Bud? I don't know if that's 100% true, but if it is true, I can tell you why. It's a speed thing. He's trying to deal with not a bigger fighter, but a faster fighter. So he's trying to adjust his reflexes to someone that has really fast, which Bud Crawford, his whipping lead hook is very quick. He's got pretty quick hands. Bud Crawford has great timing and fast hands. Fairly fast hands. Not electrically fast hands, but if you want to get your senses kicked up a notch in terms of reflexes, I would fight someone that's maybe smaller but has really fast hands. By the way, after this weekend, we have the Boo Boo versus Quigley fight on Friday. And then on Saturday, we have Porter versus Crawford. And then the weekend after, we have Fulton versus Figueroa and Lopez versus Kambosos. And then the weekend after that, we have Haney versus Jojo Diaz. And then the weekend after that, we have Loma versus Comey in UFC 269. And then the week after that, we have Beterbiev versus Brown. And we have Chisora versus Parker during the day. And then we have Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury at night on the 18th. And then after that, we have Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. After that, though, on Sunday, we have Josh Taylor versus Jack Cardell on that day. And that will finish out all of the fights I know of this year. Holy shit, what an end to an incredible year of boxing. Like, listen to all those fights and tell me we didn't have, an unreal version. Josh Taylor fights February now? Okay. I gotta update that. That's right, I think you're right. We have so many huge, I have a calendar. I literally have a calendar that I keep all my fights on. It's unreal how many big fights we have going on. So, did we hear about Estrada? Estrada Chocolatito is supposed to happen this month. I have not heard any confirmation on it. Maybe December? I don't know. It depends. We'll see. But, we have some monster fights coming on. Still some really big fights. Porter versus Crawford is a huge fight. Huge fight. Mind you, Crawford hasn't fought in years. Haney versus JoJo. I'm still going to lean towards Haney, but still, it's still a good fight. Lopez versus Kambosos. That should be a little bit of a dog fight. Oh, we got Triple G. That's right. Dana, thank you. We got Triple G coming back. That will, by the way, Dana, that will probably define whether or not we get a Canelo versus Triple G fight. Because if Triple G looks really bad, don't put it past you. Don't put it past you that Canelo will go, oh, let's make the Triple G trilogy. Everyone wants to see it. Easy money. Easy money. If Triple G does not look good, mind you, he's basically 40 years old. Canelo will go after him because Canelo's gotten better. We'll see if Triple G's gotten better or stayed the same. And by the way, if he fights Triple G, it does a couple things. Number one, it puts him back in the good graces of Eddie Hearn, who is now their promoter for Triple G, as well as DAZN, who would love to do work with him. So, you know, there's a couple reasons there. I'm sure they'd love to give him some big, huge money for that fight. Canelo versus Usyk in November 2022. Guys, if you're not part of the Discord, jump in the Discord. We are talking about boxing every single day in there, and UFC, and video games, and everything else. We will be live on Friday. We'll do a classic fight night. I haven't picked the boxer yet or the fights yet. Believe the last one was Pernell Whitaker that we did. We'll have to decide. Maybe it'll be like Oscar De La Hoya. I don't know. Oh, you can always suggest. We have a suggestion area, of course, in Discord. I mean, we've done George Foreman. We've done Evander Holyfield. We haven't done Riddick Bowe. Lennox Lewis we haven't done. We could do a Lennox Lewis night. So if you guys want to watch some old fights, I put the fights actually on the screen, guys, like up here where the chat is. We'll have like a whole thing. So classic fight night. I get this whole other area that you see right here. This is a huge, giant screen to watch the fights on together. So, I haven't done I haven't done Lennox Lewis yet. He definitely deserves some. Can I still outboxes Alexander Usyk? I don't know about that one. That's an interesting. I don't know about that one. But hey, guys, appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully you guys learned some good news. Hopefully you guys found some good news tonight. Hopefully you had fun and had a good time hanging out. I appreciate you guys being here for sure. It's always fun talking with other fight fans and seeing, what's going on, of course, in boxing, because every week it's just craziness, right? What fights do you guys want to see next year, by the way? Is there a certain fight that you want to see that you feel really strongly about? Like, hey, there has to be this fight next year. Is it Porter versus maybe the winner of, does he need to fight Virgil Ortiz? Does he need to, is that the fight you want to see? Is it Fury versus Usyk? Manny versus Wilder? What fights do you guys get you guys excited? Because I think we're starting to get there. We're starting to get there. LeBron versus James. And I think that we're starting to get into that kind of cool space where we can start kind of talking about it. For me, it's T.O. versus Loma again. I need to see it. I need to see it. I need to see that game again. I mean, that fight again. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. And hopefully we get some good games next year. Because there's hopefully a big game next year. So, with that said, if you're on Twitch, thanks for being here. We're going to do a quick raid, and I'll see you guys later. We'll see you guys on Friday, which is going to be super fun. Classic Fight Night's always fun. I always have a good time with you guys. But go say hi to someone that's playing one of my favorite games of all time, and I'll talk to you guys later.